Hello. I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, and welcome to another episode here at Nerdherder. I am J-Dub.
And I am Boop.
It is Boop.
Hello, me Grimlock. Me read shirt.
Yes, special guest appearance by Grimlock.
I am so happy with this shirt. Like, it was just like a random present, I'll say.
Yeah.
From my partner.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, this shirt. This shirt is amazing.
Perfect. You have recently gotten into Transformers.
Yes, I have. Specifically the Dinobots.
Yes.
Mostly.
You have your very specific, as with everything, it takes the right thing to get you in, but once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to find you some Dinobot stuff. Good evening,
howdy,
if you're tuning in
howdy.
live. And yeah, so I've been religiously checking major retailers for Grimlock, the king of the Dinobots. I would do an impression, but I've met the man who does it, and I would embarrass myself greatly.
Just a little.
Greg Berger is an amazing man, and I will not step on his legacy. But yes, King Dino himself, Grimlock.
Can I get a Krang impression if you're not going to do a Grimlock?
I always mess. Krang, bring me those turtles. I never know if to breathe in or out.
Very good. I love you so much.
I'm no Aaron Hansen, but I try.
Right.
Anyway, so no luck with Grimlock. If you see a random dino in the streets, let me know. Holler at your boy. But as a consolation prize, you got a shirt out of it.
I did get a shirt out of it. It's a great shirt.
There you go. That's the story. That's what's up with Nerdherder lately.
Grimlock.
Soundwave
superior. Grimlock.
I will say
superior.
Grimlock's cousins have the most metal names of most Transformers.
Bruh.
Doomlock. Cruel Lock. Yeah, it's awesome. Those are metal bands in the making, and they're designed after Godzilla. So win-win. But this isn't a Transformers podcast.
It's not.
We always set out with intention, and then stuff happens.
Hey,
but
the road to Transformers is paved with Grimlock and good intentions.
Indeed. We're on the road to Star Wars tonight because we are returning to Star Wars chatter for tonight's episode. We had a great time last week talking about Thor with our buddy Charlie.
Now we're Thor and very sleepy.
Thor and sleepy. Getting back to Star Wars. And so we reached into our bucket of wonderful and colorful guests in order to bring you the bestest and goodestest and chillestest content. And so excited for that. But as always, housekeeping as you're checking this out on YouTube, but also in the description of every major podcast place that you can find this. Of course, there's fundraisers in the description that are important. The world is falling apart and Star Wars fans rush to aid. And sadly, in this world, money moves mountains. And so you can donate to fundraisers that go to support LGBTQ plus folks that are affected negatively just because of who they choose to be, particularly out in Texas, where legislation is actively trying to take away human rights, as well as support and healthcare for those with uteruses, because apparently the government wants to tell those folks what to do with their body as well.
Yes.
So money moves mountains. You can move those mountains as well with a plant your seed in the links below. Faith is a mustard seed. Televangelist.
There you go.
Breath of God. Do all of that.
And one more.
And?
One more.
What?
September 17th. Do not forget Podathon 2022.
Yes.
Mark your freaking calendars, baby, because our boy Alden Diaz is interviewing Rian Johnson.
Yes. So, which again, Star Wars fans doing the Lord's work, the Holy Lord, Obi-Wan Jesus's work. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Everything for Podathon is going to support a great cause. And at the very least, you get a great episode from Alden, who produces amazing stuff. If you want to listen to a professional interviewer,
Dang, it's so
make
professional.
wonderful content, Octo Radio is the place for you, or Casterly Talk if you're into GOT, aka Game of Thrones.
Yes, Casterly Talk.
Where Alden and one of my pod heroes, Ken Knapsack, talk about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know, dragons and stuff, and Pedro Pascal. I don't know Game of Thrones if it's not clear.
That's fine. I stopped watching in the 4th season.
But on to our show, where we are not professionals.
Never been a professional in my life.
If you think that, go listen to any of our other Weird Space friends and recognize that. But it's okay. We never claim to be professional. We are who we are. We are Nerdherder and wacky and crazy. And we blow our budget on great guests.
True.
And
we fished around in the garbage can and we found a toddler.
Okay, well, since you brought up Eli, because I won't let you talk that way about Michael. But yes, we found a toddler in the trash, and he is here.
What's up, prom night dumpster baby?
What's going on, everybody? No, I'm glad to be back and so soon. And I'm not sure if like, I know we're calling it favorite background characters, but I've had this thing in my mind for a few hours before this where I'm like, I'm gonna slip up and say Glup Shido sometime. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. So for our listeners, and we've been preparing our listeners for this the last couple of episodes as well.
We're not saying bad words. Well, we are, but
well, no, not really. It's a name. It's a category. If you like a character obsessively that is not the main character of whatever media, that is what we call a Glup Shido. Right?
Exactly. Urban
it's
Dictionary.
A ridiculous character who is not the main character but has stolen your heart.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's what this episode is all about, is the Glup Shidos of the Star Wars galaxy. And so
it originates from a Tumblr post.
A very funny Tumblr post.
Yeah.
Shout out in the chat to our latest patron, Brennan Marr, the mystical Brennan Marr. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And yes, Make-A-Wish, important work.
Very
I love so much that Star Wars fans have come together and decided, like, things suck, but we can do something about it, and finding ways to do that. That's just so awesome and inspiring. And so, and you were awesome, Brennan. Thank you for making questionable financial decisions and supporting us in our podcast. Speaking of questionable decisions, my friend and buddy, Michael, has joined us tonight. Thank you for lowering your standards, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, first timer even. Yes, finally making it happen.
Been talking about this for a while.
Yes. For those that don't know, or well, if you want to plug, do you want to plug your podcast? Go ahead and up front tell them where they can find you making much better content than we'll make tonight. But
I doubt that. But my podcast is Soarin with the Disney Dog. Me and my girlfriend Kim, we do that. It's we talk Disney, and we try not to pull punches. I mean, not everything's cherries and rainbows or sprinkles and rainbows, whatever. They, we were just talking about it, just some of the things, So, but yeah, Soarin with the Disney Dog. You can find it on any of the where you can find your podcast.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I like because you come with quite a history of Disney as well. So and it's not just like with me. I would say I'm a big Disney media fan. Like, I love the movies, I love the shows, I love the stuff they produce. And recently, because it was only 4 or 5 years ago that I went to Disney for the first time.
That's true.
So I mean, fairly recently, where it's like, oh, and the parks. But I mean, you Disney's a whole thing for you and Kim, and so it gets into the company and all that other stuff. You have quite an eye on all that stuff. It's really cool, really interesting. So yeah, Soarin with the Disney Dog, which is, yes, a reference to exactly what you think it is.
The best ride at Disney.
That's the truth right there.
Oh man,
it smells incredible.
It's that and Carousel of Progress are like my, all right.
Because you like to take a nap.
Well, okay, you do you, I do me, okay? When
I'm
Disney
actually
gets
paying attention.
stressful,
You know what?
I need a place to chill.
Let's podcast.
Now, see, you say that, but last night we actually sat and watched YouTube and watched one of the 4K people, and they did Carousel of Progress, the whole thing, and we sat there and watched it in the comfort of
I
our
It
living
was
love that.
room.
great.
I love that they're doing those, and less popular. Like I really like the ones they do for the rides. Like I like seeing, the different roller coasters or different rides, and it's just like feeling the atmosphere
Yeah.
there is really nice. I keep saying they need to do Star Wars Soarin. They did the Star Wars biomes on Disney Plus. I put
Yeah.
that on in the background so many times, but it's so short. It's so
Yeah.
brief. I was like, man, if I could
We could get
smell
smell-o-vision.
indoor,
Yeah.
exactly.
I don't want to smell a
Exactly.
bantha, but like
a bantha.
ooh, podcast.
Oh, podcast.
Oh, podcast.
Yes. If you haven't been paying attention, which I don't blame you, but no, we are here to talk about our favorite background characters
Yes,
because
we are.
in Star Wars, there's so many characters to love, but not all of them are main characters, and that's okay. You love what you love, and there is no shame mostly
Mostly.
here on that. But yeah, like Star Wars, I think is probably the first property that I really was exposed to. Oh, there are other interesting characters in this story. I feel like I'd always watched shows or read books where you have your gang, you have your main cast. Everyone else is just very literal background. They don't really play. But then, like, I remember, Star Wars Episode 4. The canteen scene is a study in how to do interesting background characters.
Yep.
And I remember,
100%.
like, there's a devil man, there's a wolf man, there's a big bug alien. Like, there's all of these interesting aliens introduced in there that effectively get nothing going on, but kind of enraptured me. And Star Wars has continued that tradition all these years later, continuing to give us very interesting background characters. And so we've talked about Jedi, we've talked about Sith, arguably
Yes.
the two main factions of Star Wars. Figured it's time to look beyond the main characters and talk about those we love that maybe don't get enough of the limelight or the limelight. But we'll give it to them tonight.
The Sprite Light.
The Sprite Light. Yes. Sprite Light. Sprite Light. Anyway, so for those listening who maybe haven't checked out our previous rankings of favorites, first of all, shame on you. Go listen to those after this one, of course. But for the way this will work, basically we'll go around, and I realize I changed the order based on how I added in.
Yes.
So we'll start with Eli, and then we'll go down to Michael, and then we'll go to Boop, and then to me. We'll share and start with our third, and they don't necessarily have to be in ranked order. Okay, number one does not have to be your favorite; it's just number one, but it might be your favorite. Who knows? No pressure here.
Mine certainly is.
And it will get very confusing very fast if we have favorites that are similar, because we'll talk about that as it comes up. And so, but I'm curious, it's almost playing a game to see if we can actually agree. I don't think, well, there's one of mine that I think may come up, but the other two I'm almost certain are not going to come up.
Same.
I do not believe any of mine will come up.
Awesome.
I
I'm not
wonder.
sure.
I freaking wonder who Eli.
Maybe
is
I
going
did
to
it just to
have on his
spite you.
list.
Maybe I did it to spite you, Eli.
Just quite possibly. No, I have a lot of my thing is I have a lot of different club shit. I'm like I latch onto those background characters. I'm like, those are cool. I like this guy. I like this person. What's there like my favorite part about this stuff is like it's often like just another story waiting to happen.
Yeah.
It's often to me like, oh, it's about the possibility. It's about like, oh, we could get this story with this character.
Sure. Well, and this is very much born out of probably one of the most intriguing characters of his time with Star Wars. Like, you get the likes of Boba Fett, who up until a year ago was a background character fully. Like, until he got his own show, I would argue tooth and nail that no matter how much I love him, he's a background character. but he's gotten so much development from his own show. And yeah, the Clone Wars even, but when you get more than a few cameos in the Clone Wars, then we'll talk about being a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of that of just like, I want to know more about him. I want a story about him because clearly he has seen some things. He's done some things. And so I'm very much one of those with a lot of mine on my list of like, they're too interesting not to get a story at some point. Right. And sometimes we end up making up our own, or sometimes legends are told. Hint, hint. But anyway, yes, we'll start with Eli with your number 3.
So my number 3, I feel kind of good about this one, but I also feel kind of bad about this one. So
Very good one.
I only found out this was as obscure a character as this was when I was doing a trivia match on In a Galaxy, and poor friend of the show Trey, poor Trey got stuck with this question of a character I did not realize was as obscure as it was. And my number 3 is Old Daka from Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Really?
Oh, wait a minute.
I don't pity Trey with that one. You know who Old Daka is?
The Rolodex is spinning.
Yeah,
she is basically the Yoda of the Night Sisters.
Oh, wait a freaking minute.
to be
Yes,
fair-
I know exactly who you're talking about.
So
The Rolodex has stopped.
to be fair, all right, from my context, I've rewatched Clone Wars a lot, but it's honestly because I use Night Sisters and Galaxy of Heroes.
That's me
all
too.
the
That's
time.
me too. Me too. Legitimately, that's why I know.
Microtransaction nerds.
Like literally, that's why I thought she was less obscure. Is because she gets used. She's a mainstay in Galaxy of Heroes. So like But
what was the question?
it was which Night Sister was voiced by Kathleen Gotti, and the answer was Old Daka.
Never would have gotten that.
I wouldn't have known that either. Only because I thought it was D. Bradley Baker.
Now you know why we've never been on In a Galaxy trip. Because we don't know nothing.
That one again. There were several other questions in that round that was like, and I looked at it afterwards. I'm like, oh shoot.
Eli pulls no punches.
Like these were too hard even by my standards.
Sure.
But Old Daka is frankly fantastic, and that episode Massacre is maybe one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars period ever. It is like I always think of that episode like this. Imagine if you told somebody in 1977 after A New Hope came out that, years in the future, Star Wars would become an army of witches fighting an army of robots. And that's an entire TV episode.
Right.
Incredible.
It makes absolute, like, nobody would have any context at all other than maybe Ventress's lightsabers for this entire episode in 1977. And this is like the evolution of what Star Wars has become. But Old Daka is so cool. I love like Night Sister magic. I think it's really interesting. All those usages of the Force that go really deep into what we haven't seen before.
For sure.
And I also really just like, my favorite part about it is like clearly the Night Sister zombie spells were working against the droid, and then General Grievous marches in and stabs her,
right?
And it's all over,
right?
Like she doesn't even put up much of a fight.
Well, it is Old Daka.
Yeah.
Well, now, and I know Mike, you're still in your Clone Wars watch through. Yeah. So don't fear not. No
spoilers here.
Well, I mean, she dies. You know that much now.
Spoiler.
But
she's in one episode. She's in literally one episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good episode too.
But like you said, I mean, the concept alone, out of Star Wars context, robots versus zombies, like that. If there's not another reason to watch the Clone Wars, you get all kinds of wackadoodle stuff like that all the time. But I'm with you. I mean, I love, like, I remember back in the day when, like, my favorite trivia thing for Night Sisters was that, they were based on some of the concept art for Darth Maul. And so it's like that through thread. And that's all Night Sisters were for so long. And they have evolved so much thanks to, it started with Dark Horse Comics, but now into the Clone Wars. They're so interesting. And like you said, even like the implications as well. Like they use the Force. They just call it magic.
Exactly.
That's so interesting. That's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a
very
good
good one.
start,
Good
Eli.
job,
Good
buddy.
boy. Good boy. You
You're gonna get a cookie.
you don't have to worry about going into the trash anytime soon. Michael.
I'm sorry. I feel like every so often I just have to say, I love you, buddy.
Well, yes. Yeah,
It's
for
got
those
it.
without context, Eli is our pickle friend, which
Yes.
now that I say that sounds inappropriate, but it's
he's the
not.
sweet baby boy of our friend group.
I am what
Right.
they unofficially call the goon son, which I think
It's
is a
true.
compliment.
You've been adopted by so many people.
I would say the
Ray
goon.
Skywalker.
I constantly imagine Eli on a leash, and all of us pickle friends are just holding him back. But no, nonetheless, we love Eli. He just lives in the trash.
It's true.
Michael.
So do the rest
And
of
is
them.
that the same thing as you see like walking at Disney World or Six Flags, and you got the little kid in front, and they've got
Oh,
the
sure.
Exactly.
around them?
Exactly. Yeah,
Nev-
that's
never-
exactly what it is.
Backpack with the leash on it.
Never was the term ankle biter more accurate than when I see a child on a leash. I'm sorry, because that's
Yeah,
all I
for sure.
see.
Jump, my son. Aim high. Like you don't have to be an ankle biter.
Yeah, aim for the knees. Michael, finally. No, number 3. Your number 3.
Wow.
Top witches, if you can.
So I have been going back and forth because I even came to you and said, just making sure how to pronounce one of them the other day or yesterday.
Yeah.
And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, that's why I was like, are we going to actually have a honorable mention type thing? But
I
I'm
definitely
changing
have
it.
a couple. I'll say
Yeah.
if so along the way, if y'all feel like
I
he
didn't
make
prep
the
an
list,
honorable
but
mentions because my honorable mentions would probably go on for minutes.
Yes.
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And I mean, the same thing I could probably come, but it's like I had like a 3A and a 3B type thing. But I
Okay.
ended up settling between the two. Captain Cardinal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like listening to the book Phasma, learning that story, you know, knowing that how jealous Cardinal was of Phasma. Originally, it was more like the chosen one, I guess. But you know, when Phasma comes on scene, gets real jealous and takes Vi, you know, on the what was it, the Resurgent?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like sort of interrogates her, does all this stuff. Who, I guess some of it because Vi ends up being the person that if you go to Batu, she's actually there.
Yeah.
So you know, and you know me, the color red. That's another. That's like my favorite color. So.
Not as good as Crimson, but it is good. It is good.
Oh, what?
We're not talking about sports.
Now.
I will
That's
remove both
just-
of you from the live stream, and
I
me and Eli
didn't-
will talk.
I didn't say anything. Roll Tide. I didn't say anything.
I do want to just interject. I saw Alden was in the chat, and he
Yes.
missed me bullying Trey. So
He also missed us worshiping the ground he walks on, but it's okay.
It's true.
It's okay.
Yes,
Just know it
That's
happened.
just like a Friday
Yes.
afternoon, baby.
Alden, I bullied Trey about the old DACA thing. I'm just telling you I did that. So
But
Can't wait.
yeah, no, Captain Cardinal. Which
There you
also okay, so I
Cardinal,
just
yeah.
have to before I like give it back to you, Mike, I have to point out the oddity that is a cardinal in the Star Wars universe because that's what that name introduces. That means there's cardinals.
There's hell
in Star
there's
Wars,
cardinals,
right?
like there's the concept of a lot of things.
So I just wonder, are they like our cardinals or are they like Star Wars cardinals? Are they like little mini pterodactyl cardinals? You know,
Probably.
like I'm just saying, like it's a cool name, but it that's where my brain goes with stuff
They're
like
like
that.
red convors.
It's just like, oh, this character's interesting. They look so cool.
It's
Star
sitting
Wars-
ducks all over again.
Exactly. There's
Star Wars
ducks.
ducks.
There's rabbits in Star Wars.
Just
like
saying.
we're not gonna
Yeah.
But anyway, but yes, Captain Cardinal, Mike.
aminals.
No,
I
I'm
just, you know, that's one of them I would like to know more of a story about.
sure.
And the more I look on like Wikipedia and stuff, like when I've been like trying to, you know, plan for all this stuff, man, there's just like a wealth of information out there about all these characters.
Yes.
So that would be my third, instead of the one I told you about.
It's okay.
So,
Honorable mentions. No, but yeah, like it's interesting because not only is he cool in his context, but like now you wonder how did he get there, right? Like
right.
what we're seeing is the story of Phasma getting where we see her in The Force Awakens and everything. But now I'm more interested in where did this red guy come from?
Yeah.
Why
is he named after a bird?
Right. Why is he named after a bird? Did a
Do
bird
birds
kill his
exist?
mother? But no, I love it. And it's Captain Cardinal special to you and I, Mike, because I remember so I found him because he was released as an exclusive to
Yep.
Target. I found 2 of them. And I was so happy because there was other things I was looking for, but I was like, okay, I know Michael likes this. I like this. I'm going in. And I get to the register and the lady's like, no, we can't sell that right now. They put it out too early. And I'm like, really? Like, but it's out. Like, I have it. I checked it. Let me scan it and everything. And she's like, no, I've got to take it back from you. I'm like, what? I was so hurt.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah. And I'm like, this close. I came this close, buddy. And then I remember you coming in like a week later or something, and you had one for me, and I was just like, oh, yes, my collection is now complete. So he sits proudly.
Right
I can see
there.
him up there next to Phasma. And so
The
yeah,
tall woman.
the tall woman.
Love her.
Yeah, great one.
Yeah,
Boo, we're setting precedents.
we are.
Can you keep up?
No. Just set expectations low and you'll never be like disappointed, baby. My 2 and my 3 have swapped places a couple times. It was
Cute one.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Whammoth. Yeah, I thought Alden was gonna
Same.
go with Tebow myself, but
Tebow's
Also
another
fair.
good one.
yeah.
Best of the Ewoks.
Oh, yeah. He's good. I'm gonna say it and I'm gonna commit to it because I've been thinking about this a lot while everybody else has been talking. Mine is technically 2.
Okay.
Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba.
Well,
classic.
this is
know.
okay. All right.
So, if you don't know who that is, it's the Walrus Mouth Man and the beautiful fella.
Can I
in the
admit
cantina
something
scene.
real quick?
Yes, dear.
Growing up, I thought he always looked more like a tarantula.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my thing
Right?
too.
Okay. When people were always like Walrus Man, and eventually
He's a freaking arachnid.
right. That's what I thought. So okay, I'm glad I'm not as weird as I thought. But
No,
anyway,
not
I'll
at
give
all.
it back to you.
But yeah, he's
Wait, I got to take it back. Roarin' Korub. Shout out to Roarin'
Yep.
Korub, my favorite Jedi ever from the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone
Yeah.
Wars. Thank you,
Yes.
Alden,
also very
for
good.
that one.
I
I
like
will
that
also
guy.
point out Alden's second one in there, Aftab Akbar. The Rise of Skywalker is a fantastic movie for background characters.
Yes, it is.
And we will return to that with one of my picks. So
Yes. So
Fair enough.
sorry, I saw Love for 2003 Clone Wars, and it
Of course.
yes. Anyway.
I almost picked Shagai. Like
oh, missed opportunity.
missed opportunity. But yes,
Ruh-roh.
I enjoy that interaction in the cantina so much because it is establishing, a lot of characters in that moment. And you get a little aside with 2 I don't like you either. Is a great people icebreaker. If you ever need to meet someone, you just walk up to him. My friend doesn't like you.
I don't like you either.
I love that whole thing. My favorite though is it's just like, okay, I'll be careful. You'll be dead. It's just
Exactly.
like-
That is an excellent icebreaker. That's how you either make friends or make enemies.
Right.
And either way, baby, you're meeting people. Like, come on. But yes, and my love for them didn't really start until much later. When I found out Legends stories. Well, not Legends. They're canon now.
Yeah, there were a lot of that's come over implications of those because in Legends, if I'm not mistaken, it was done there.
Yes.
Because what we see is Ponda's arm gets cut off, but
And then there's an entire explanation for why it bleeds.
yeah, weird
because-
alien blood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Evazan actually gets cut too.
Yeah.
Like we don't see it as much. So effectively, they were out
Yeah.
at that point.
Just out of commission.
The difference is that canon has moved forward with them. They are not dead.
Yes. Not only are they not dead, but they are incredibly sinister characters.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I adore what they did with these two little rapscallions,
Mhm.
making them from like
Evazan's a sneaky little guy.
exactly like bastards in a bar to like evil
There's a
people.
reason he is wanted on 12 systems.
Exactly. Like there's a reason his face looks like that. Like man, the decraniated in Solo, that is a terrifying concept. And if you are
Yeah.
not familiar with the decraniated, read a Wikipedia article. Get scared and understand the
I
fact
was
that
just
this
saying,
can happen. in
or
real
alternatively, don't. On the
Or,
decraniated, definitely not.
and again, a shout out to Alden, which again, reminder as well, you can be
Exactly.
tuning in and joining the conversation live like Alden is. And yes, visual dictionaries. Like
Mhm.
if we mention anyone or anything interesting tonight, find a visual dictionary. They are
Yes, we have
definitely
several
in there.
right there. If you don't
Um,
know where to find one, ask Jared.
Shout
Dark
out
Jedi.
to follower on Twitter. Wikipedia has also already been mentioned. I
Brag about it.
I have to. Okay, like it's so random. I
Yeah,
constantly. I'll post something ridiculous and then think about, am I disappointing Wikipedia right now?
I know for a fact that I am disappointing Wikipedia every day
I feel like
because
I
I
feel
have
like there's
asked them the Operensis question.
there's an entry for us
Yeah.
on Wikipedia of like disappointing things Nerdherder has said on Twitter.
Honestly, sometimes you just got to know if it's a smash or pass.
Sometimes you just gotta know.
Sometimes you just got to know. Yaril
Um,
poof. Like, never. I'm just gonna. Yeah,
And-
I'm done.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Not that I'm
No, yeah,
rushing you along, but
It's one of those weird things that happens with a bunch of Star Wars characters of I don't necessarily care a lot about small things and small details. That's why I'm not on trivia. But there are certain characters where I learn something about them randomly, like through fun facts or trivia with Eli. And I'm just like, okay, I need to know more about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look into this and be just absolutely just horrified
yeah, rabbit holes.
or
Well,
delighted.
My utter favorite thing about Star Wars, like this is legitimately one of my favorite things, is with Evazan and Ponda Baba, specifically Evazan. I love when they give you a last name and then you find out they have a first name.
Yeah.
That is something that Star Wars consistently does, and I love it so much. So like I remember I was helping Connor from Nerd Academy podcast prep for some trivia stuff.
One eye.
And yeah, one eye guy. And he was talking about General Riken. I'm like, no, that's General Carlist Riken.
Yeah,
Such a
yes.
dumb name.
Dr. Cornelius
Evazan, yeah.
Takes all the air out of the tires when your villain is named Cornelius.
Yeah. Mr. Corn.
But no, yeah, like they do come from, because a lot of that was like tales from Mos Eisley, like, you know, background characters getting a story and Legends books way back when. And
which we'll come back to later.
to be interesting in those things, I think what authors and creators did, because I mean, you're going up against the likes of main Star Wars characters. Like, how do we compete with a farm boy with a laser sword? You know, you make them really stinking. Like, you get one super interesting, like, peak moment of this character's journey, and you make that their whole thing.
Exactly.
Right. So, like with Dr. Evazan, doctor, what's he a doctor of? And we get into this sort of Dr. Frankenstein kind of mad science, and it's just like, oh, that's the extreme that's going to make this character interesting.
Exactly.
And so in some ways, not that every character has to be extreme, because then no one is extreme. I do miss the days where that was a little bit more prevalent, where it's just like, we're going to go hog wild with this character and what makes them cool and makes them stand out.
Exactly.
And so there's a good mix. There's a good mix for sure. But yeah, they're a great pairing. And I love that they're very good grounds for Legends and canon getting along.
I just realized that all of my answers are technically multiples. Let's move back on.
Ah, interesting. That's okay, because I too have technically multiples.
Oh.
So for my number 3, it's definitely multiples. It's a gang we may all know something about, but not enough, I
Wait a
would
minute, I
argue.
know what this is.
What? What do you think it is?
I think it's the Knights of Bran.
Oh, dang
Okay,
it.
hey,
Knights of
hey,
Bran.
we're good.
I was
We're
gonna
good.
say, is it old? Is it, or as I remember it, is it old Cutvac?
Right.
Yes.
Because
No.
that's the acronym I use to remember their names.
Well, right. Yes. Well, and that's the thing too, is like they also, not only are they background characters, they got the most Star Warsy names that we've
They
seen
do.
since 1977.
Yeah,
Like I
they
feel
do.
like this is the only thing George Lucas contributed to the Rise of Skywalker. That man was crazy with names. But yeah, no, the Knights of Ren are my number 3, which I know is technically not a background character. I run the show, so I feel like it counts. Anyway, but yeah, like
And so I actually started to bring that started to be one of mine. I'm like, that's way too many. So
yeah, right. Now all rules are on the table,
I mean, come on, guys.
right?
Exactly.
Knights of Bran.
So what I tried to do, because I can, like, I like a lot of background characters. We've all said it, and we could do episodes upon episodes of it. And so like I had to come up with a system to help me kind of sift through and pick who would eventually end up on this list. So none of these are by any means ranked. My number 1 is not my absolute favorite. It was just that what I did was sat down and I was like, all right, prequel trilogy, original trilogy, sequel trilogy. All right. And from there, I was like, all right, who appears in film, books, TV, whatever we have that I think is super cool and interesting. And then I would also get into, all right, why? So like for the Knights of Ren, obviously that's my sequel trilogy choice. And the why is mostly because we get a taste. It's not that they don't have anything, because I know somebody will remind me, and I know they have appeared in the Rise of Kylo Ren. They are now in some of the current issues of the Star Wars comics, as well as Crimson Reign. I know they're getting stuff. It's slow going and drip fed, though. I think number 1, when they were first introduced in The Force Awakens, they were mishandled. In terms of how are you going to introduce this interesting gang of characters and do nothing with them? And not only that, but then the next movie, we still get nothing from them. And then you bring them back in the last one, just happening to remember, oh, yeah, they exist.
Mystery box, baby.
And they're just going to stand there for a swooping
They
shot.
stand still.
Exactly.
I
They
love the
stand-
sequel trilogy to death, but the Knights of Ren, come on.
Come on, man.
Well, like they exist in one sweep. Well, they exist in a few. I'm exaggerating, but like their main thing, the longest screen time they have is the swooping shot that looks like it's from a Linkin Park 2003 music video.
Awesome.
And it's just
On
like
Phasma, yeah. I love that shot. Again, I
It's a good
love it as
shot.
much as I hate it,
It's
because it
good.
reminds me of...
Well, because everything, and this is the good and bad of a good background character, or of a favorite background character, is everything we get just makes you want more, right? It's never enough, because they're always too interesting to just settle for those little bits. So yeah, them just wandering around and whatnot, and getting one fight scene that I feel lasted way too short with Ben. Like, come on.
Yeah, you just feel like they did not give you the full potential of the Knights of Ren in that movie.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
because when we're first introduced to them, like the thing anchoring them is, all right, Knights of Ren. We've come to understand a little bit more what that means, but me and a lot of people probably are like, okay, Knights of Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren.
and it's not.
Right. It's like
Nope.
by comparison, you've got this cool leader
It's a
and
biker gang.
these interesting looking characters, but nothing interesting done with them. And it's not like, this is not one of those situations where like this is why The Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy sucks.
No,
Like,
we love them.
no,
This-
I wish they had a better
This
play
could
test.
not matter less to the development of the trilogy.
Exactly.
And ultimately that's why it's the way it is. And I understand that. I appreciate so much the comics coming around. Mostly, thank you, Charles Soule,
Thank you, Charles
yeah,
Soule.
for picking them out of the garbage and actually making use of them, because they're so interesting. And again, Alden mentioned specifically the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary, but I think of like Trudgeon is one of my favorites. You're not, if I'm going to say these names, and almost no one besides Eli is going to know which one I'm specifically talking about.
That's fine.
It's okay.
I only know the names. I cannot identify names.
So Trudgeon is cool because he's the one. He's actually got like the top part of his helmet is a Death Trooper helmet, and that's just bonus points for me.
You do love Death Troopers.
Exactly. Instantly cooler. But there's also Grenade Faced, aka Vickrell, who's one of my second favorites, and the only one to get a Black Series figure. There you go, Michael.
Exactly.
Hey, there you
Visual
go.
dictionary for the win.
Yeah, Vickrell's the only one to get a Black Series figure, and that makes me so sad because I want my gang. I want my swooping shot recreated on my shelf. But anyway,
Get you a Christian Slater action figure to go with it.
the last thing I'll say about it, because we could go on and on, I'm sure. Like, that's the thing with group characters and multiples. You could talk longer about them, but like, and I don't know if I know I talked about this with you. I just don't know if it was on the show or not.
We do talk a lot. We are married.
Right. It does come up. Something I love so much is shows that give me a gang where everybody's got a shtick, right?
Yes.
And I mean, if you go back to the concept art of these guys, there's the monk, the armor one, the gun one. Like, they specifically name them after a gimmick. And I think that I blame my growing up with Transformers, where everyone had to have its own gimmick and everything. But I also think of like Samurai Jack. The episode with the robots, the basket robots, that there was the one with the knives, there was the one with the flamethrowers, there was the one with the guns. And the Knights of Ren are that for like the dark side, where it's like, oh, each one has a thing. One literally has an arm gun, right? Two of them have different scythes or axes and everything. Like,
I love axes.
I want to know, why are you the axe boy, right? Like, what's your story? And so I love that it's an eventual. It's not a matter of if we'll get story. We are getting more story, so it's just when we get more and more and more. Because I love these. I love these bad boys.
Give me a workplace comedy with the Knights of Ren. Just like
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pulling off heists and stuff.
Exactly.
My thing with the Knights of Ren is I feel like the most blame for them is on the Force Awakens trailer, because like, to be fair, they were set up by, like, we got that shot with them and Kylo in the rain, and we were like, oh, these guys are gonna be pretty big, and that was trailer editing.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And we had expectations based off of that, which we can have a whole another conversation
there
about.
was
But, like,
a lot
yeah,
of expectations
and
set
that's
up by that trailer.
and that's fair. And like you said, the biggest thing is it doesn't play to the development of the film. The films are still great. The story's all still great. But add it to the list of wishful thinking for the sequel trilogy for sure. So, but
Again,
anyway,
we don't hate the sequel trilogy. We love the sequel
The
trilogy.
Last Jedi is literally my second favorite Star Wars.
Exactly. You should, be comfortable complaining about things that you love sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. See, what we're doing
This is
is
healthy.
senselessly complaining about silly things in Star Wars.
Exactly.
What Star Wars Theory is doing is not therapy,
No.
which is what that man needs.
He needs a lot of therapy.
he needs more than therapy. And B, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, no, I absolutely will love to. I would love to dig into all of the stuff I like and don't about all of my favorite Star Wars movies, and also Rogue One.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill you in your own home. I love you so much. Finish your statement, baby.
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Healthy and mature people can say, "Hey, I wish this had been different," or "I didn't really like that specific thing,"
I just don't.
and that's just opinion that we can move on from. I think it's toxic and unhealthy when we like make our personality about not liking something. That's just not normal for people. Which is part of why we do these kinds of episodes where we just talk about things we do like. Because at the end of the day, what I'm saying is I like the Knights of Ren. I wish there was more. I'm not saying the Knights of Ren were wasted and that's why the sequel trilogy sucks.
No.
Those are two different statements, and that's two different ways to approach opinion. So anyway, not trying to preach.
Anyway.
The movie, it's not that they, in any of them, because, I mean, I have my favorites and everything, but every movie has its spot.
Yeah.
Its place to tell part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can't. I mean, could they have done better with some of this stuff? Sure, but I mean, in the end, it's all about telling that story. They all have their place in this world of Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, it just weaves it all, like you saw, like a tapestry. It just weaves it all. It weaves the story.
Yeah.
So
So there's a running joke, Michael, where we just make fun of the tapestry. Like legit.
It's
I was
legit.
gonna
We
say,
made a-
Alden's already watching the stream. You don't need to summon him.
It's true. No,
So,
like
but
that
no,
is it is the
it's
best
legit.
analogy for Star Wars. I
Yes.
will admit. But
It's just
also,
it's just
it's become a meme in our friend group.
it's a lot like it's poetry, it rhymes thing, where it's like
Exactly.
it's so goofed that it's both real and not real at the same time.
Yeah,
It
literally.
transcends reality.
Yes.
Alden Diaz is in my phone as Alden the Tapestry Diaz. that guy.
So Michael, we've made it around the corner back to you. So what's your
should
number?
it be Eli?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh,
yeah, it is.
and what's funny, and I'm
Wow.
looking at Eli too when I said that.
Wow.
I don't know what happened.
He's Louise.
I don't know what happened.
I'm mean to him, but that was really rude.
I apologize, Eli. Eli, what is your
Uh,
number 2?
So this one is a fun one. I really love this one, and this is one of the first faces that chronologically we see in a Star Wars movie. And my second character is Mayoi Madakor from The Phantom Menace. She is the pilot of the Radiant 7 that brings Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to the Trade Federation starship. She has like 4 or 5 lines. That's it. She is one of the last remnants of like the Galactic Republic that we see before the Phantom Menace happens, before the Clone Wars era happens. I'm endlessly fascinated by her and her co-pilot Antidar Williams, who of course meet their end in that ship when they blow the Radiant 7 up.
Yes,
Yeah. Or as I like to remember it in the Lego Star Wars video games, where they blow the ship up and then the chairs get removed and they fall to the ground.
Oh, the original Star Wars games were superior.
Oh,
Yeah.
incredible.
I really just love she says, with all due respect, the ambassadors for the Supreme Chancellor wish to board immediately. I'm like, you're treating the Nemoidians with respect. First mistake.
Exactly.
Right. Well, she also, both of them actually have an interesting way of speaking, which if that's their accent, I apologize. But like it's very regal as well.
Yeah.
With all due respect, so that
Yeah.
I will say the way those lines were delivered have always stood out to me.
Yeah, I also love the new Gunray lines back to because they're maybe some of my favorite new Gunrays. Yes, of course. As you know, our blockade is perfectly legal.
Yeah. Well, welcome to my home, my perfectly legal home.
There is
And we'd be happy to receive the ambassadors.
Right.
We are totally not going to poison them or anything.
Absolutely not. Look at this droid.
What they should have done. What they should have done, actually.
No, I have officially deemed the scene like what I call troubled negotiations scene. Like that's my Glupshido scene. Like everything about that scene, I just love. It is I think one of the most underrated scenes and openings to a Star Wars movie.
Absolutely.
Because it feels like of course we have the lightsabers with the Jedi, we have Obi-Wan, this familiar stuff, but it almost feels like we're in a different universe for the first few minutes.
Sure.
And I've always been endlessly fascinated by that scene.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to earn the brownie points with me. Phantom Menace is my favorite.
Absolutely.
And, I would almost count Radiant 7 as its own favorite background character because I have like 5 of them over on my shelf now. I love that ship so much, man. That consulate class is so beautiful. And Crimson, I will say. But that's a good one. That's a good and proper Glupshido right there. Michael.
Wow. So the more I look at it, I don't know that my next choice is a background character. I don't know if we talked about.
Is it Yoda?
No, not quite. Probably one of my favorite actors right now. From the IP Man or Ip Man, what do you want to talk about? See, and I don't know if Chirrut would be considered a background character, even though he's only in Rogue One.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, you and I talked about this one, and for me, um, as much as he is a part of Rogue One, the crew is effectively really Jin, Cassian, and K2,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Everyone else in that grouping are background to them. Now they might not be as background as other characters like Morif or like Tukey,
How?
Yes.
How, but they are background to someone. And so I with my blessing, I was like, no, yeah, they're background because I
Yes.
And
want more.
I thought we had talked about that. So
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
mean,
Tarut's a background character.
yeah, when you look at it like that, that's almost like 2 for 1 because you've got Tarut and then you've got Baze.
Yep.
They're sort of 1A and or right there. When you see one, you see the other.
Mhm.
And the really interesting thing is they really have a difference of opinion, but
Yeah.
but they get along.
Hmm.
And when he gets killed at the end, Baze, you can see that the kind of friendship that they had there, the just the camaraderie they had, it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just his whole, again, I really like him. I own quite a few of his movies. He's just a good actor.
Johnny Yin is a international treasure.
International.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
just incredible.
He's amazing. And I feel like, and I'm right there with you because I love him in action movies because I love the kinds of films that he's in that just you know like turn your brain off and just enjoy kind of
Right.
action films. And of course, he's an actual martial arts master at what he does.
Incredible.
He doesn't just throw his fists around. Like he's incredible to watch do what he does. But he's also very funny. That's often kind of covered up by some of the like roles that he takes and everything. He's an incredibly good dancer too.
Yes, he
Didn't know
is.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
alongside, it's funny because Rogue One has probably the best dancers in their film between him and Diego Luna from
Dirty Dancing 2.
Dirty Dancing
Havana
2,
Nights.
the south of the border one.
Nope.
I haven't seen that one. So.
Havana Nights.
Where's Havana?
Cuba.
Okay, there we go. Cuba.
Oh my God.
Where is Andorra? There's so many places that aren't Andorra.
Please continue talking.
Anyway, but no, yes, like the talent amongst that man is sickening and beautiful at the same time.
No, he just, again, a lot of these characters that I looked at, it was along the lines, I really want to know more. I wish they would do something with this character on their, a movie, standalone movie on their own.
Yeah.
That's something we've talked about for one of our upcoming podcasts about characters you would like to get a Boba Fett or a Mandalorian type show where there's more to it, a standalone movie or whatever, where you could learn more about them. And again, it's done again. And I really, Justice and I have had a lot of conversations about him. Just
friend of the show, Justice.
Yep. So, I mean, I am one of the Force, and the Force is with me. I need one of those T-shirts. That's my.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think too, kind of like with Eli's, with Old Daka, part of the intrigue is also like they're very different interpretations of something we're familiar with. So they're not just interesting characters on their own. Their relationship to the Force is very different than what we've known from the past characters and lore and everything. So that in and of itself is interesting. I have specific Chirrut and Bay's thoughts that if any of our listeners want, because I don't want to repeat myself and extend this show too long, we did an episode recently on Rogue One.
Eli was not invited.
No, he
Nope.
was not.
Neither was Alden, neither was Scotty.
But
very true.
exactly, they were kept very far away from it.
'Cause you guys suck.
But yes, check it out because I have an interesting theory about those two characters. In addition to just also talking more about why I love them so much.
I will say,
Rogue One is
Tarut,
really underrated to me. I mean,
Agreed.
I mean, that is such a good movie.
Yeah. What were you
I
gonna
will
say? Eli?
say that I think Chirrut is maybe one of the best characters from that movie.
yeah, definitely.
He's one of my favorite characters from that movie, and I remember specifically because I was unfortunately spoiled ahead for Rogue One.
Mhm.
I knew
What, that
there were
everybody dies?
that everybody
While watching
dies.
Star Wars.
But I remember specifically that K2 died and then Chirrut died. I'm like, they killed my two favorites first. Why do you have to do this?
Because they knew it was gonna. We weren't gonna feel the same about any of the other ones. So they were like, we're gonna make them cry and then keep them crying.
I will say Baze's death scene is, I think, maybe my favorite of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking out Death Trooper after
Yeah.
Death Trooper,
Oh, yeah.
reloading that cannon.
Yeah, he gets the most next to K2, the most like final stand kind of
the bombastic
finale.
stuff.
Yeah. Love it so much. And because it's also coupled with probably the most extended shot we get of Death Troopers,
Mhm.
the superior
You're
stormtroopers.
such a simp.
You know what? I'll take it. Boop.
Yes.
Your number 2.
My number 2, like I said, my number 2 is multiples. Technically, I did a lot of thinking before this episode, and I did some conferencing with you of can all of my answers be droids? I was told no.
You weren't told no. I would told you that, and spoilers, but we will be doing a droid specific favorite episode. So I said save
hold
some.
off.
Yeah, save some, but I didn't say no.
Regardless. My number 2 is, not technically characters, more of a concept, really. All of the background battle droids from the prequels,
praise be.
the Clone Wars, like there is something so special and so like world buildy, character buildy about like looking in the background and seeing a battle droid just washing a tank, just doing a little wipe down.
I was gonna say, I remember I recently told Michael about that one.
Yeah.
Because I think we were talking about like something else you had seen, and it was just like wow, all the times I've seen this, and I was like, trust me, I know. Like my favorite Star Wars, and I'm still seeing new things, or even just having new ways of seeing the old things.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like that was something that you were very good about pointing out is all of the little background moments, like the droid washing the tank, and then in Revenge of the Sith, one of my favorite things is watching the background of the Grievous and Obi-Wan shot, right before he pulls out the second set of arms and lightsabers. There's 2 droids standing right behind Grievous, and one goes to the other and points. Like, hey, check this out.
My favorite thing about the battle droids is the battle droid humor. Battle droid humor, especially in the Clone Wars, is unmatched. Is unrivaled.
Even the smart battle droids.
Is there such a thing?
Apparently, they made them.
There are smarter ones. Yeah,
exactly. They move faster.
It feels like a little bit of a troll because like obviously fans for a long time have joked about stormtroopers and everything, and I feel like in the prequels they were like, oh, you want to see dumb troopers, we'll show you dumb troopers.
And like I've said it on the show before, but the Separatists were never going to win. That's very obvious, but they were going to have a chance with numbers alone. And when you need to mass produce an army, you're going to lose some processing power in there. Like straight up, you're just going to have just an army full of basic iPhones just holding guns, which I'm sure is the future at some point. Like honestly, at some point, Jeff Bezos is just going to mass produce an army of dogs from Boston Dynamics, because that is essentially what they are.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, war dogs.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of comparisons with Bezos and Amazon to the Trade Federation and the Phantom Menace,
and very
it's going that way really rapidly.
Yeah, it's scary how fast it's going that way. Like I said, the decraniated earlier.
That's the thing, man. Like George Lucas had an eye for this stuff. He was always commenting on society and politics and the world around us.
But Star Wars isn't political,
right? Yeah, it's only these new woke films.
Baby, it was political in 1977.
Right. William Shatner, Star Trek was political.
Yes,
Get
you
over
were
it.
there, William Shatner.
Oh my goodness.
We're not gonna get into it. We can talk all day.
So for my number 2, I kind of cheated because I couldn't decide on some, so I was going to throw them in. But luckily, to my surprise, they were already included, so I don't have to talk about them as much. So I'll talk about their foil. And so I wanted to segue to talk about Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba because I mentioned, right, the cantina
Excuse me.
scene was important and foundational to my love of background characters, and no 2 characters stood out more than Evazan and Baba. And so I had an appreciation for them. They couldn't quite make the list though, but I knew how to work them in by talking about one of my other favorite characters. We just talked about Rogue One, which is Tam Pulsa.
Gesundheit.
I know, yeah, like crickets in the crowd. No, all right. So
No, cheer it.
you'll have to look. You'll have to look them up, but I'm sure once you see a picture of Tam Pulsa, you'll know or be able to draw a little bit of a reference. He's a blink and you miss it character in Rogue One and in Solo, actually. But he's a really cool looking, quote unquote, bounty hunter. But there's a lot more to his story. So he's a great example of the legacy of Boba Fett, where you get a character that looks cool and then you give them an interesting background. And he is absolutely that. If you look up a picture, he looks like someone you could write some stories about, right?
That guy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they did. I just looked him up, and I didn't realize that the guy who played him, Matt Alsop, it's his name backwards.
Yeah,
Which is
and he's
an extremely Star Wars way to come up with a name.
Oh, for sure.
Look at me being dyslexic again.
And he's actually concept artist for Lucasfilm, and so he just basically got to put on the costume for Rogue One, and it was kind of a cool thing. But yeah, the story that's been made for him, he has shown up. So, but I still feel like he plays in the background of other characters, particularly Dr. Aphra. So if you read Dr. Aphra comics,
Dr. Aphra.
he shows up there at multiple points because he is hunting down Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba because he's a Mulvanian, and apparently on that planet, Dr. Evazan did a lot of his horrible experimenting, and Tam, being the crusader of justice that he is, would not stand for such a criminal being allowed to get away. And so he crossed the line, did unquestionable things, and so he was kicked off the force. It sounds like an 80s beat cop film, man.
Love
He's
that.
kicked off the force, and he's got
3 days from retirement.
he's got he's
He's
too
got to
old for
take
this
justice
crap.
into his own hands. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Along the way, he falls in love with a decraniated,
Aw.
and it's a beautiful thing. His name is Bog, and they're adorable together while it lasts. Is all I'll say.
I hate that. How dare you?
So yes, please read the Dr. Aphra comics where he shows up. He dies, comes back, dies again, and comes back again. And
It's
you just
the Phasma effect.
you have to read it to believe it.
No one's ever really gone, baby.
I picked him a lot because I love all of the did you know, like, because he starts out at, oh, that's a cool looking guy, and then it's like, yeah, guess what's even better, all these things that happened. And that's something big for background characters for me, is it's like it's not just that they existed at one point in the background, because it'll even be that they've got 2 seconds of screen time, much like Tam and a couple of my other favorites. It's that they've got that, and you wouldn't believe the stories that have been told about them. They're just not in the films, and so that's why I would still count Tam and several others as background characters. So yeah, read Dr. Aphra comics. Check out more of that because it's a very interesting character, and Dr. Aphra in and of themselves is an interesting character as well. So yeah, there you go. Info dump. Eli.
Yeah.
We've made it around.
I was gonna say, yeah. So I'm gonna talk about Pong Krell. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
On my show.
Real quick, I'll say, so we've made it to our number ones. We have not repeated each other at all yet.
Freaking wonder.
So this is the farthest we've made it without repeats on this type of show. So I'm very curious if we keep this record going.
I am 100% sure that no one else will say mine.
We shall see.
I'm wondering. So I was watching. So as I was mentioning before, The Rise of Skywalker is a fantastic movie for background characters. I was watching The Rise of Skywalker for the first time in 2019, and I hear Lando talking. Lando's talking about Luke and him trailing this old Sith hunter named Ochi of Bestoon. I'm like, that is a name.
That is a heck of a
And
name.
from then on, I decided to become basically an Ochi stan, an Ochi simp, whatever you want to call it. It is. And then this is my favorite part. So again, I never thought he was going to be in more than the 2 scenes he was in The Rise of Skywalker.
Same.
But then freaking Greg Pak, the hero that he is, brought him into the Darth Vader comics and made him an idiot. He made him an
Just
idiot.
downright goofball.
Love stupid so much.
He is so hilarious.
But he believes he believes the hype you believe, Eli. You love this character, and he's like, no, I'm cool. I'm a Sith hunter. He believes all of that. That makes it funnier.
One of my favorite recent moments, and there was a bunch of them, but the comics provide some of the best moments for Ochi. Some of my favorites include so there's this character, very famous character in the comics named Valance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Star Wars Terminator.
Yeah, and he's introducing himself. He's introducing them. He goes, "I'm Ochi of Bestoon. This is Balance." And he goes, "Valance," and he's like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't care." Which is awesome. And then there's one from like a comic a few months ago. This was like, I think 22, 23, something like that, where he's working with, believe it, actually a Sabe, one of Padme's handmaidens, on a mission, and I forget exactly what's happening, but he's like, they're never gonna forget that. They're never gonna forget that Ochi of Bestoon was the one. And then she just goes, "Shut up." And I'm like, I can hear that scene. I can just hear it. It's great. But the comics were great. Nothing truly compares to the glorious. Give me a second, because I actually have this right here. The greatest Ochi of Bestoon content we ever got was Shadow of the Sith.
Yes.
Shadow of the Sith is a lovely book without Ochi, and it is incredible with him too. I'm actually so I remember I was fortunate enough to meet Adam Christopher at Celebration.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to him, and the first thing I said to him was, "I'm such a big fan of Ochi of Bestoon. Thank you for all you've done with him in this book." Again, book hadn't released yet.
Right.
But but yeah, and he again, he's a bad guy. Like, especially we find that out in Shadow of the Sith. He is a really, he's not just a cartoonish villain, he's also a really bad guy.
Yeah.
But he is just this weird, wacky character. One of my favorite things about Ochi when I first discovered him was all the potential in the battle. Because, Ochi and the Sith Eternal and all that kind of stuff, there was this whole other world about the Sith Eternal and what Palpatine was planning on Exegol and on all that stuff that happened, that up until that point we just knew nothing about.
Yeah.
Shadow of the Sith did a lot of great work expanding that, but there's still a lot of stuff we don't know what happened a lot with the dark side in between episodes 6 and 7.
Sure.
With Snoke, with Palpatine, with that kind of stuff, and Ochi was kind of like the gatekeeper to everything that was down there. The weird clone stuff, the cloning, dark science, secrets only the Sith knew, and all that kind of stuff.
It was incapable and talented hands for sure.
Somehow.
Yeah.
No, I love that, because not every bad guy can be Palpatine, right? Not every bad guy can be Darth Vader. Sometimes they're bad, but they're also just goofy guys. And
sometimes they're Snidely Whiplash in Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, I think of Starscream levels of you are a threat, but you're also so ridiculous. And so Ochi.
I also won't spoil anything that happens in Shadow of the Sith, but I will just say this is something hilarious from Shadow of the Sith. So Ochi has these droids that work for him, actually. They're called the Droid Crush Pirates of Bestoon,
Incredible.
which is maybe
good
the best
name.
name I've ever heard. And there's a certain point where he's talking to somebody, I forget who it was, and he's like, and they're like, hey, are you, how close are you to capturing the family? He's like, don't worry, I got the Droid Crush Pirates of Bestoon on it. They never fail. And I'm like, do you realize how you sound? I mean, that's
Right.
awesome, but do you realize how you sound?
That
Exactly.
is absolutely an Ochi
Yeah.
branded name for sure. It's on brand.
Interesting. I got the Boop Gremlins out on it. It's fine.
Exactly.
That's just the pickle friends.
Ochi of Boop.
Oh. You know who doesn't like Ochi of Bestoon? I can't reach him right now, but he's over here. Dio.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dio does
Especially if you read Shadow of the Sith, yeah.
I've heard. Oh, I've heard, Eli.
Yeah, it gets very bad with Ochi and Dio.
I love that baby so
He was
much.
traumatized for a reason.
No, thank you.
But no, yeah, I love.
And the part I hate about it is Dio was just resting in a library somewhere.
He's just hanging out, my guy. Like
Ochi just came in, killed all of his masters, and then took him.
That's how you do. Poor boy, poor Dio.
poor baby.
But yeah, no, I love that Ochi's one of the more recent characters, and by that I mean like the sequel trilogy that has just caught fire with quite a fan base. And yeah, he's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. That's a good one, and not a surprise at all. From Eli.
Not the
100%.
slightest. That's why you're on the show.
Follow me on Twitter at OchiFan327.
Right.
Exactly.
Also, not a surprise, I'm sure, unless you're going to pull a fast one on me, Michael.
No.
Is your number one. But for the sake of our listeners, I'll
What's your
pretend
favorite
like it's my
background
first time
character?
figuring this out.
No fast one on this. I mean, there is no better character. Totally, this goes along the lines with the whole Knights of Bran thing. I don't feel like they met their full potential. Captain Phasma did not meet her full potential. She was killed off way too easy, way too early.
Is she dead?
It's just, well, and you know what? Maybe is she dead? Have we found the body?
Exactly.
Exactly. I didn't see a corpse.
All right, then he's not dead. Yes.
So, but I remember when you were telling me about the book. I mean, you already knew I was like a huge fan.
Yeah.
And then so I got I actually got the book on. I downloaded the book and I listened to it on like I would listen to it on the way to work, on the way home, wherever I was going, I was listening to it. The whole story behind her, how she started. Wow. And maybe that's why I like Captain Cardinal, is because there's that interaction between the two, the rivalry, but there is no better character than Captain Phasma. I mean, she is.
I remember
they could do that movie off of her book, and I would just be.
I'd be front row with you, buddy.
It seems like Delilah Dawson was just having a blast writing.
Oh, absolutely.
Phasma.
Oh, definitely,
for sure.
yeah. And when you sent me the picture of you standing with that lady, it's like, and because she looks so much like her.
Yeah, no, it was spot on, and I've since found them on Instagram, but I remember because I was from Celebration Chicago, and like there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, this is a cool moment for me. Let me do that, and then after the fact, being like, "Hey, look what I did! Look what happened!" But I remember in that moment being like, "Oh no, I need to do this for Michael."
Yeah, I mean,
it was a fantastic cosplay. I remember seeing the first trailer for The Force Awakens where we just get that one shot,
and then finding out that it was Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah, like finding out, oh wait, this isn't just a shiny trooper. There's going to be more intrigue here. Surely. It's not just tall. But much like with Boba Fett, I think it was a very understood assignment where what little we do get is so good.
Yeah.
Phasma is the Boba Fett of that trilogy. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
well, if that's the case, good. There's a movie in the future, a TV
show. Exactly. The book of Phasma. Well, and yeah, and that I mean goes out very similarly where it's just like, really, that's what we're gonna do? They fall into the ground, like, okay, all right.
Shot down by a droid though.
But
That was
again,
pretty cool.
I hold fast.
So,
We didn't see a body, and there was at one point I was campaigning. I was like, "Look, let's keep the trend alive. All right,
Just
she's come back once. She can do it again. She
oh
needs to
my
be
god.
in the Rise of Skywalker."
just a hand reaching out from the
Oh,
ground.
I wanted
like
them
the end
like
of Carrie.
obviously I didn't know anything about Rise of Skywalker at that point, but if I could put it anywhere, I would love them just flying around on Exegol, shooting down the Star Destroyers and everything, and then randomly just the hood of the Millennium Falcon hits Phasma. Just like, where did she come from? She's holding on for dear life, like because that's
Yeah.
what it felt like. And I love Ryan, but like it felt like a goof to bring her back. It was like, because same concept of we didn't see what happened, and so yeah, I love whether you take it as a very jovial thing of the character that just won't die, or as a no, that's a powerhouse that we didn't get to see do its thing. Either way, I think Captain Phasma is agreeably a great character.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I really have tried to figure out why did she end up being my favorite character. I mean, and when I say favorite character, I'm talking like
Yes.
across Star Wars.
Yes, for everyone that so Michael and I work together. For everyone that doesn't know, I've contributed to about a fifth maybe
Yeah.
of his Phasma stuff in his office. But you go in there and you have to wear sunglasses because it's mostly reflecting off the chrome of some Phasma merchandise.
I just that I have more Phasma stuff than
you have a
disappointing. I couldn't find my Phasma T-shirt. It must be dirty. So
you have a Phasma desk. I have a Boba desk. We know what we're
Sure.
about. We're up front with it. But yeah, no, I love it. And that's something too. Like I as someone with a character very similarly, I think I just that was something we bonded over was just like I've got my weird favorite, you've got your weird favorite.
Mhm.
And there's just something special about that with Star Wars because they're full of so many weird favorites.
Absolutely.
So good stuff. Speaking of weird favorites, I know all of y'all's number
It's
one.
true.
You're not gonna guess mine though. Ha 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 ha.
It's
Well, you said it was from Legends, so
I did.
yes. Mine is also technically from Legends. I also
The
technically
reason you love them is from Legends.
exactly. I technically have them tattooed on my arm.
Deep reference if you get it.
Deep reference. It's the Death Star. If you can't see that,
Or if you're listening to this podcast.
Yes. One of my favorite Star Wars characters in general came from reading a book that we have right over there.
There you go. Yep.
It was right after we went to see The Force Awakens. It was my first kind of foray into there's more to this. Like there's more story to learn. And that is, if you're listening to this, Tales of the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
And the first story in that book is oh no, I've forgotten what it's called.
Isn't it I Think Therefore I Am?
Yes, I Think Therefore I Am.
I was gonna say, is your number one IG-88?
Yeah.
My favorite one of my favorite characters is IG-88.
Gosh, this book is old.
It's so old, but it's so good. Like if you've never read the Tales from or the Tales of series, so many good stories in those books. Like that's the only Legends that I really honestly care about. But whatever, man. Like
we love us a good anthology here at Nerdherder.
Exactly. We do. We love the Tales of series. We love the From a Certain Point of View series. Like an anthology is good.
Yes,
but yes,
anthology is great.
Oh yes. IG-88 is a powerhouse of awesome.
All of them.
All of them are. So if you've never read the story, there's IG-88 that is, the main boy, the big boy. And one of the first things he does in that story is he puts his consciousness into 3 other droids. So there's IG-88 A, B, C, and D. That causes some hijinks, if you can imagine.
If I can.
Yes.
Part of the reason that exists, which is in and of itself a funny trivia thing, is in case you didn't know, you do see the collapsed corpse of IG-88 on Cloud City.
Yes. And if you don't know who we're talking about, it's the tall droid in the background in the bounty hunters scene.
Yes. So when Chewie's trying to rescue the parts of C-3PO, you can see the crumpled body of an IG-88.
I think that's C.
Yeah, and so the author, they
I know
decided,
B is the bounty hunter.
yeah,
B is the bounty hunter.
and D is the one from Shadows of the Empire,
Yes.
video game that faces off against Dash Rendar. But yeah, so the author was like, I've got to explain why you see a droid on the Star Destroyer, and then you also see one in the garbage, but then also one is still alive after the fact.
Mhm.
And that's how all of that
Yeah.
came about. But it opened the door for even better
Yes.
storytelling.
Even better storytelling. Like this droid is not only cool looking, he has possibly one of my favorite deaths in all of Star Wars, which is he moments before Luke fires into the Death Star's exhaust port, he downloads his consciousness into the main
Wedge.
wedge. Okay.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say I thought it was the second Death
Look,
Star.
man,
It is.
it is.
It's okay. She doesn't respect Wedge. It's okay.
It's he doesn't have enough mustache.
Well, they weren't there for Snap, clearly, so, you know.
It's true. But
R.I.P.
yes,
Snap Wexley.
downloads his consciousness into the Death Star's computer moments before it is destroyed, which is the dumbest thing you could possibly do and the most active hubris thing a droid has ever
Yeah.
committed.
Because we made the reference and joke of that is like the Star Wars Terminator, and that's only in appearances. And
Yeah.
so quite
IG-88
literally,
is-
if you know what I mean by Terminator, yeah, he looks like a Terminator in Star Wars. But IG-88, yeah.
He is the perfect killing machine.
Yeah, he's Skynet in actual execution.
Yeah.
He wants to wipe out the meat bags and all of that. It's
and he has a very clear and concise plan for how to do so.
uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
I love how his plan is very, well thought out.
He's a murder bot and he's professional.
If it wasn't for
can
that dang
recall-
hubris.
If I can recall correctly, because I remember reading a summary of the I think therefore I am, you said the story was.
Mhm.
So didn't scientists program them, and then their first act in their new consciousness was killing the scientists,
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
and then going
That's-
on a murder rampage.
Yeah, it's literally Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, where it's like,
Mhm.
as soon as they're made, he goes crazy. And
Yep.
and that was the
It is
reasoning
like
for
sci-fi horror to the max.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure. But it's the way of doing it right. It's not like Borg science.
No.
It's not like Yuuzhan Vong levels of like sci-fi dystopian.
Yeah.
But it does take from its time period for sure for its kind of storytelling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the entire crux of his being is I am superior. Therefore, I need to, wipe out
Yeah.
the inferior beings.
And canon hasn't directly undone any
No.
of that yet.
They better not.
Well, I mean, who knows? But like,
In my mind, everything that happens in that story is canon.
yeah, it was what. Oh, and sure,
Because it hasn't been disproven
and
yet.
you can have that headcanon. Yeah, and that tends to be how I treat things. If it's not disproven, it's not approved. So
Whatever, man.
like what you like in the tapestry of Star Wars that you've made. IG-88 also goes to like those Samurai Jack levels again, because that
Mhm.
A, B, C, and D, they all kind of have their task and everything. So for me, it's always been interesting of that side of it because, again, for some reason, once you like compartmentalize things, it's way more interesting to me for some
Yeah.
reason. But anyway, yeah, nope,
Yep.
saw that coming.
You
knew
100%
that,
saw that coming
and
because
that's
I have a
okay.
I
shelf
should have
full of
known that
IG
because I knew that IG-88 was like, I think we've talked about that before, that was like her favorite
Yep.
character and everything. And like when you watch The Mandalorian, I mean, IG-11,
Oh,
Mhm.
love
Yeah.
IG-11.
yeah, I mean, these are like killing machines.
Mhm.
They are good at what they do.
They really are. I mean, it's just the two of them, and he's spinning and shooting and protecting. Like when they reprogram him, he's protecting the baby. It's like,
Right.
dude, that's a killing machine right there.
Mhm.
Well, and what I love about IG-11 is that like everything you love about the character is just tied to like the story of IG-88.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily anything
because
they
I love dystopian
they
sci-fi.
do. and you don't even really get the full oomph of what they do because it is a novel.
Mhm.
IG-11 takes Murderbot and gives us what that actually looks like, and so it's like, okay, if you didn't like them because they were an interesting concept of a character, now here they are doing cool stuff, right? And then Taika Waititi, which in my head canon, all IG units are voiced.
Exactly. Listen,
11
man,
to 88 are Taika Waititi.
I cannot wait for IG-88 to show up in a new
I
canon
love it.
show or movie, and it's just Taika, just straight up Taika.
Does
Yep.
anyone have any honorable mentions they'd like to throw out there briefly before we wrap this up?
Wait, did you do yours yet? Or
No, mine's gonna wrap it up. But I
It's
wanted
ended.
to, I
okay,
wanted
got
to,
it.
I wanted
Okay,
to
you
open
wanted to
up.
cut some.
Yeah.
I'll quickly go with my honorable mention, which is Gazgano,
Mm,
who's the guy who finished second in the pod race.
yes,
Ah.
it's a good one.
Just mainly because he finished second.
Right.
Because
Which at that
for
point, I'm
every
surprised anybody's
Anakin, there
left.
has to be a Gazgano.
Mhm.
I feel like Gazgano.
Aw, buddy.
It's okay. I came in second. Better than third. Michael, any honorable mentions for you?
Yes, if you can pronounce it for me again.
Which one?
Black.
Oh, yes.
Chrysanthemum.
Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, that's. I mean, and I've always been a fan of Wookiees. I mean, but
As you should be.
yeah, and I was sitting there reading things about it, and like when you look back and see the history that I guess Darth Vader had hired both Boba Fett and him to hunt down people at the same time.
Yeah.
Boba Fett sent to hunt down Han Solo, and he was sent to hunt down somebody else. But so I feel like at that, like, they don't really sort of give you that idea in the Book of Boba Fett, but like, so that you feel like they knew each other beforehand.
Sure.
And then when when the twins bring come and they present him as a what's the word I'm looking for? They basically give him to Boba Fett. Boba Fett lets him go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that. To me, he remembered that, and like he could have. There's so many things he could have done, and so when Boba Fett went to him for help, there was that. I don't know. Maybe it's late. My brain's gone. So but he just. I was impressed that maybe he remembered what Boba Fett had done for him, what he could have done to him, but instead he helps him fight, and that's another one, man. Would you like to see what all he had been through and everything, being that he was a gladiator at one point, and
Right.
I think he was one of the only ones that actually volunteered or killed somebody else so he could get into the gladiator ring. I mean,
Yeah, he's
so cool.
brutal. And I'm still not quite over, like, Clone Wars to live action is one thing.
Comic book
to action. The fact that this character started out as in a comic book
so cool looking
and exists now.
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
It's incredible. Chrysanthemum is one of those ones where, like, I remember I played a game. I don't know if any of you played it. There was a mobile game called Star Wars Force Collection, which was gone too soon. It disappeared around. It shut down around a few months after the release of The Last Jedi. But I remember they released a Black Chrysanthemum card in that game, and at the time I was a more casual fan, so I'm like, I thought I knew Star Wars, but who the hell is this guy?
Right. Yeah.
And then I looked, and I was like, oh, he's from the comics. And then I forgot about him until Chapter 2 Book of Boba Fett comes out.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then twins come out, and then Chrysanthemum comes out. And I'm like, is that
reveal.
who I think it is?
Yes.
Is that Chrysanthemum being brought into live action? And lo and behold, it was.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's still one of the best best punches they've had.
Look,
I mean, I'll say it and piss people off, like, but it hit me in that moment more than Luke showing up, more than Cad Bane. Like seeing and it is all of that, like where they came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke showing up.
Same
Okay.
thing with Cobb for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like considering where we were going, it makes sense. So therefore, some of the pizzazz, I almost said spazzazz, and that sounds inappropriate. Some of the pizzazz was kind of like shelved for me. Black Chrysanthemum's out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and handled so well.
There have been a few moments when watching Star Wars where one or both of us has physically like stood up
Like,
watching,
oh,
and it was Black
Yeah,
Chrysanthemum for
yep.
both of us. We both like screamed
Yep.
in that moment because we had read the comic books.
Mhm.
Man,
Yeah,
and
I've got to
then-
go out and find some of these things because I haven't read those comic books, and it's like such an interesting character. And
oh, for sure. So,
Also,
and there's
Chrysanthemum inspires one of my favorite lines in the Book of Boba Fett. Love this line. Which I actually wrote a question that has not been used in trivia. And if anybody finds this may or may not be used at some point. It's Boba talking to him, and he goes, I forgot the beginning of the quote, but he goes, "But these are not the death pits of Dur, and I am not a sleeping Trandoshan god."
Yes.
right. Well, that's a comic in one line.
Yeah.
That is, and I'm not saying this to compare it to bad like Star Wars dialogue or like, oh, see, this is how it's done. But it's like in that moment, like, you know, the backstory you've talked about, Michael, they knew each other.
Yeah.
That line happens in a comic. Like that in and of itself draws on the foundations of this character. And that is so good. So good. But yeah, that is a great one. I'm glad you kept him in the folds. Poop. Any honorable
Yes.
mentions for you?
Let me stare at the shelf for a second. QT.
QT. Yeah.
If the Clone Wars gave us a wealth of fantastic arcs and beautiful episodes of television, but what is the name of the? Dang it! It's the arc with all the droids.
D Squad.
That's the one. The D Squad arc is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, if you're a lover of droids, D Squad.
And I am.
Yes.
D Squad is fantastic. I didn't
so good, man.
before
Like,
I rewatched it on In a Galaxy. I remember I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but then I rewatched.
No,
I'm like,
it's
no, this
spectacular.
is some good stuff.
It's good.
You get
it's
pre
good.
A
crazy
Sunny
Man
Day in the
Darker.
Void is maybe one of the greatest episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars
Dude.
that nobody recognizes.
For sure.
Absolutely. Like that arc is full of amazing story moments.
It's sadly
And-
lost to
yeah.
the filler category and to some
Yeah.
people's lists, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you get some great droids in that, and you get the cutest little pink droid ever, who has a great story behind her, and I just love QT.
I want to see Whack again.
Honestly, yes,
Absolutely.
I wanna-
Any more
could
pit
you just-
droids we can get.
yes,
You just give me Whack and Gascon.
yes, in a buddy
Arguing
cop.
constantly.
Yes.
My like I just want to hear all of that. Right on the way, Corporal. That's Colonel.
I loved
good
all
droids.
of the dynamic there. It's a good break because it's good story, but it's also fun, and getting that in later parts of the Clone Wars that were a little bit more intense was a nice little reprieve as well.
Yeah.
So honorable mentions: the Crimson Corsair, aka Sidon Atheno, from The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
One of the coolest helmets in Star Wars. Look it up. Crimson Corsair. They get a great
Of course, you
story
have a list.
in an anthology book about some of the background characters of The Force Awakens that also features the return of one particular clone, the last clone even. So I won't spoil that because
Greg.
they are an honorable mention. So, but yes,
Yeah.
check it out. That one's
Oh.
mostly because they look cool.
I will say this about Sidon Athano very quickly.
Mhm.
Watch Resistance, people.
Watch Resistance.
That's true. That's right.
Sidon Athano
Watch
appears in Resistance.
Yes.
Very minor role, but he's selling B1 battle droids.
And he looks just as good cell shaded as he does in The Force Awakens.
Yes,
Makes
Um,
everything look better.
TK421 from A New Hope. TK421, not because of his broken communicator, but because he fell in love with one Moff Grant Harkin.
Yeah,
And
That
I
did
I
happen.
love that.
that is still the
Again,
craziest thing to come out of that book. Like,
oh, for sure. And yet again, an anthology story from a certain point of view. Similarly, from a certain point of view, TD 110. You know that stormtrooper that hits his head on the door?
Yeah.
He's got a story, and it's dang interesting.
Yep.
General Merrick, Antok Merrick, aka the Blonde Bibs.
Mustache.
Yes. So I've got a shout out. I got to say it. So I made our thumbnail with some references to what ones I knew people would know and maybe might think we would bring up on this. And General Merrick from Rogue One is one of them, Blue Leader. And I was like, all right, I can't include him and not include his mustachioed counterpart, Biggs Darklighter. And lo and behold, I can't put Biggs Darklighter out into the universe without attracting one Alex Damon.
It just, I don't know what it is. I
He
think
knows.
he knows. He just knows.
Yes, his invisible
Al-
mustache tingles.
yeah, Alex noticing that was great. I thought he was noticing it for Ochi and his mask, but apparently he was noticing for
No
somebody
one cares
named.
about Ochi.
Yes.
If I'm remembering correctly, his name is Diggs Barklighter, I believe it was.
Oh,
Shut up.
I'm gonna dig something for you in a minute.
It's a grave.
I'm kidding. No, and here's the thing. I love Biggs too, especially in the deleted scene because that's just a much better look. The whole
Oh,
half cape and
absolutely.
everything, like
That's how I would dress if I was in Star Wars.
perfect.
Mustache and all.
He's all right. No, I'm joking. I really love Biggs in that scene.
Again, another one of the classic background characters there. And yes, I did make a list. Okay,
I know.
it's my show. Bear with me. It's our show. Sweet Choi. Does anybody know Sweet Choi?
I do, yeah. I'm very vaguely Jedi in Legends, right?
Sort of. So what's interesting about him is in Legends, but he is canon because he does get 2 frames of a moment in Revenge of
Oh,
the
he
Sith.
is in Alina. I was
Yeah,
like, I looked him up. He's in Alina. I'm like, the first thing that popped into my head when he said Sweet Choi was, I'm
Yep.
like, wait, is he in Alina?
He's one of the he actually uses the Alina model from the pod racer in episode 1, and they just slapped a robe on him for, again, one very brief scene in the background, literally, of Revenge of the Sith on Kashyyyk. That's all he gets. But in comics, he got some great Order 66 stuff. Last honorable mention. Almost made the cut, but not quite, just because there wasn't enough backstory to work with. And that is Coleman Trevor.
Yeah.
The legend himself.
Yes, the Verk Jedi he's the one that jumps up on the I wanted to say patio, on the balcony and tries
the
to
patio.
attack Count Dooku and get shot down by Jango Fett.
Good for him.
He just looks cool. He looks like a dinosaur, man.
I love a dinosaur.
I will say this.
That is very loud.
Speaking of Verks, if you ever want a weird Wikipedia dive, check out the Verk Senator. His name is Swait Conquerkill, which is maybe one of the greatest Star Wars names of all time.
Agreed.
And they share the same CGI model because they all look alike.
Wow.
That's the art department on that one. Don't at me,
It's
bro.
not racist. It's the art department.
So honorable mentions. The one I ended up going with, it was tied pretty closely with Coleman Trevor, and what won it out is the one who had the most interesting story to tell for being a background character. So Coleman Trevor, really, you get everything in that one scene. He's a Jedi and he's bold. That's it. My number one is Sora Bulk, who is again a Jedi. Background in Attack of the Clones in the arena scene. He is a Weequay Jedi, so the likes of Hondo and such. In Legends, he went on to be a dark acolyte for Count Dooku, turned to the
Yep.
dark side. He was a user of Vapod, which is Mace Windu's like signature style of fighting that like borders dark side energy, basically letting him go further than most Jedi would in combat. And basically, Sora soared too close to the sun and went full dark. He went all the way over and did some horrible things. He was in some of my favorite arcs of the Dark Horse Clone Wars comics, fighting the likes of Kukruk. He is the reason Oppo Rancisis died in comics,
Good.
in Legends.
Good.
And
Unsettling.
ultimately, another fan favorite background character, Quinlan Voss, was the one to put him down.
Ayy.
So he's just interesting. He's just really cool. He is technically canon, not only because of Attack of the Clones. He shows up in the Clone Wars as well, in the background. And so
He is a background
he is
character.
a definitive background character. But he's
Yeah.
got such cool Legends stories that I always point people to the Dark Horse Clone Wars comics. They might be Legends, but they are such good reads now. Still good stories, great art, and a lot of interesting takes on Star Wars. So yeah,
That's
so
it.
there you go.
We did it, guys.
I
We got through all of
I
them.
would have gone with Kukruk, but I've already used that card on the Jedi.
Listen, if
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw
Yes.
Kukruk in the thumbnail.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I thought when you said Sora, yeah, I thought when you were gonna say Sora, I thought you were gonna say Kukruk.
Yeah,
Who's fantastic, by the way, in Legacy, which is great. It's maybe some of the best Star Wars comic work of all time.
yes, with one of the greatest of the Sith, Dark Reign.
Yes,
great big hat.
Yes.
praise our Lord and Savior Ashrad Head.
I was about to say, like,
he keeps making it into the episodes.
Jared's not
Yep,
even
he does.
I love it.
No, I'm
yeah.
a big Crate fan. I'm a big Crate and Ashrad fan. Yeah.
Oh, as you should be. A great example of the Sith. So yeah, so that is our favorite background characters. Clearly, there's more we could have and may again at one point venture to discuss, but for now, this is what you get. Be sure if you listen to this after the fact or watch this to let us know your favorites. It can be in a ranked order or it can be in just following your heart. Who knows? But join the conversation. We'd greatly appreciate it. That's part of why we do what we do is we like the conversations it starts. Everybody's favorite is interesting to kind of dive into, because no matter what we like about Star Wars, there's always people that like something very uniquely, and I think that's what's so beautiful about the fandom, the better parts of it at least. So, as mentioned, Michael with Soarin with the Disney Dog, be sure to check them out. Eli from In a Galaxy with his lovely co-host Jacob as well.
We prefer Jacob.
We put him to bed early, tucked him in, gave him his warm milk and everything.
Yeah, he's taking off for tonight. But no, we just we're gonna be recording tomorrow. We just recorded the latest episode of Epic Confrontations a few days ago, which I think is maybe one of the best ones yet. We got the crew from Pink Milk talking Star Wars queerly on to do Star Wars trivia, and that was definitely an event. It was so
Oh,
much
I'm
fun.
sure.
I can't wait.
I'm
to
sure.
hear that. Honestly, man, if you get some bird facts in there or like Care Bear facts, I will happily be on your trivia show. But I just don't know about Star Wars.
Apparently, there are Star Wars Cardinals, so there is hope for you yet.
Epic confrontation.
Bird facts
Versus Spencer.
Boop facts. Boop facts.
versus Spooner.
Yes, versus
Spooner.
Spouter.
Yes, the epic confrontations get more epic with every episode and inclusion. So, and obviously with the folks from Pink Milk, you're bound to have a great time. So, everyone be sure to check out In a Galaxy as well. And just thanks, guys, for joining us for this one, for another fun conversation. Again, I'm always intrigued by what people like and why. Which is a big part of these kinds of episodes.
Yes.
Because we can always pick main characters and talk at length about them, but I think more is to be said about what we like when it comes to characters that are lesser known.
Mhm.
And so, good stuff all around. No repeats this time. We made it a clean round.
Yeah.
Huzzah! We all thought for ourselves for once.
Eh.
It's fun sometimes.
I was just gonna say every single background droid that's a gonk droid, just every single one.
We are back next week with more Star Wars. With Star
Yes.
Wars and Chill. It's
Exactly.
next week's my birthday week. I'm not one of those people that celebrates all week, but it's bound to be a week of stressing about getting a little bit older. And so we're going to be taking it easy next week and hanging out with your submitted Star Wars questions. So as you think of things, if there's things you want to know or things you just want to trouble our little brains about Star
Mhm.
Wars related, you can add us on Twitter. You can find the link to our Discord and message us there.
Serious and goofy.
See,
Goofy and serious.
As the only stipulation is it's got to be Star Wars. But
Yes.
give us your questions, and they'll be included next week in a chill and casual episode that I'm looking forward to. Other than that, be sure to check out our guests. All the other information in the description.
Yes.
Can you think of anything else? Because you are the brains of this operation.
Oh, we're screwed then. Bye.
Yeah, stay scruffy.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.